I was the fat sister until I walked into her wedding like this. Let me be blunt. I've spent most of my life being treated like the sad little footnote in my sister Bonnie's over-the-top highlight reel. And for what? Because I wasn't skinny enough to be background decor in the family photo? Because I didn't glitter like Bonnie with her Barbie blonde waves and that pageant queen smile? Please. Since childhood, I've been typecast as the smart one, which in our family is code for, you're not pretty, but at least you're useful. I was the kid who read during recess while Bonnie twirled in tutus for teachers' attention. She was a born head-turner. I was a library mouse in oversized sweaters. She got charm, grace, and center stage. I got told to suck in during family portraits. My parents? Oh, they loved to brag about how different we were. Bonnie's our social butterfly, they'd say with a chuckle. And our older daughter's a brainiac. I knew what they meant. Translation: Bonnie was the show pony, and I was the plow horse who got good grades and didn't complain when left out. Every family holiday was a comparison fest. Bonnie's looking so fit these days, isn't she? Aunt Kathy would beam as I sat right there, mouthful of mashed potatoes. She's just glowing. Grandma would gush. No one ever commented on my glow, just my portion size. But it wasn't just relatives. Even at school, Bonnie's orbit came with collateral damage. She'd let her friends call me bulky or Bonnie's backup. And if I ever pushed back, she'd laugh like I was being dramatic. It's just a joke, she'd say. My parents would nod along. She doesn't mean it. Don't be so sensitive. Sensitive? Try being publicly mocked for your body every day by the people closest to you and not developing a sensitivity complex. But I wasn't the villain. I never hated her. I didn't resent her. I even defended her more times than I care to admit. I'd tell myself, she's young. She'll grow up. She doesn't realize how much it hurts. Turns out, adulthood doesn't automatically come with empathy. I eventually moved away, carved out my life in a new city where no one knew me as Bonnie's sister. I worked hard, landed a job I actually enjoyed, made new friends who didn't treat me like a consolation prize. I was happy, comfortable in my skin for the first time in, well, ever. And then I got the call, Bonnie was engaged. Surprisingly, I felt nothing but joy for her. Really. No bitterness, no eye rolls. I even cried a little when she sent the video of her fiancé proposing under fairy lights in a string quartet, because, of course, she did it like that. It was the most Bonnie thing ever. And when she asked me to be her maid of honor, I said yes. Big mistake. Fast forward a month, I fly in for a family lunch, expecting warm hugs and champagne. What I walked into was more like a roast, and I was the only one who didn't know I was on the menu. Bonnie gave a big, sparkly announcement about the wedding date. Toasts. Cheers. Confetti. And then, as the room buzzed with excitement, she turned to me and said, "So, you gonna drop a few pounds for the wedding, or just show up as you are?" Laughter. From my mother. "Oh, come on," she said, sipping her wine. "You could look really nice in that bridesmaid dress if you just lost a little." Bonnie added with a grin, "Yeah, I want everyone in the bridal party to look hot, not like, tragic background extras." I laughed. Because what else do you do when you've been slapped in the face in front of your entire family? But right then, something in me snapped. Not loudly. Quietly. Internally. Like a final little thread inside me broke free. And I made a promise to myself. I would change. But not for them. Never for them. I'd change for me. And I'd show up to that wedding not as their scapegoat, but as their worst nightmare, a confident woman who didn't need their approval. They wanted a transformation? They were about to get one. I didn't buy a gym membership the next day. I didn't sign up for some overpriced, color-coded weight loss app. No, I started where they'd never think to look. I started in silence. At 6 a.m., while the city still slept, I walked. Hood up. Music on. No fitted. No calorie tracker. Just me, the pavement, and years of humiliation getting stomped into the cracks in the sidewalk. I walked until the air didn't sting and the fog in my chest started to lift. I made a vision board, not with photoshopped models or wedding dress goals, but with strength words. Resilience. Balance. Autonomy. I hung it on my fridge, where no one but me would see it. Next came the food. I didn't go keto or paleo or any other trendy nightmare. I got a notebook and logged how food made me feel. Which meals gave me energy. Which made me crash. I learned my body's language when no one had ever bothered to teach me. I stopped eating in shame. I started strength training with a tiny, ancient pair of dumbbells in my apartment. I downloaded YouTube routines that didn't make me want to cry. I built stamina, not for weight loss, but for power, for presence. I was reclaiming space I'd spent my whole life shrinking out of. At work, people noticed. "You're glowing," my boss said. Not because I lost pounds, but because I started looking up instead of down. I got my hair cut into something bold, short, messy, and defiant. Bought a leather jacket I once told myself I could never pull off. Spoiler, I pulled it off. Bonnie still sent group updates, seating charts, shoe options, passive-aggressive texts about whether I'd fit the dress by April. I stopped replying. I sent her my final measurements the day they were due. She called that night. Her voice sounded different, edgy. Not excited, not nervous. More like threatened. "You're smaller than I expected," she said. I could hear it, that subtle crack in her voice. The discomfort. Like she'd just realized the spotlight she'd hoarded her entire life was suddenly wide enough to fit me. I didn't rub it in. I just said, "I'm feeling good these days." And for the first time in forever, that was true. She hung up without another word. I stared at the phone, waiting for the guilt to hit. It didn't. All I felt was calm. Because the truth was, I wasn't chasing her anymore. I was becoming someone she never expected, someone she couldn't mock into submission. And that terrified her. Update. Let's just say things went from awkward silence to full-blown passive-aggressive chaos faster than I could deadlift my emotional baggage. I hadn't been parading my progress online, but apparently the universe doesn't need a megaphone when your relatives double as small-town paparazzi. It started with one innocent photo of me out at a friend's birthday party, wearing a sleek black jumpsuit, minimal makeup, and, God forbid, smiling. A distant cousin shared it, and within 24 hours, it had made the rounds like wildfire. Enter my Aunt Diane, queen of unsolicited opinions and Facebook stalking. She apparently took it upon herself to mention during brunch that I was looking a little different lately, with that knowing tone that says, "You're not supposed to improve unless we approve." Not even a day later, my phone lights up with a message from my mom. "So we're all really proud of how far you've come, but..." There it was. The "but" that always shows up to rain on your parade. The punctuation mark of disappointment. She followed it up with a 5-text rant about how Bonnie had been feeling insecure, and how maybe I should avoid wearing anything too attention-grabbing at the wedding. Suggestions included flats instead of heels, so I wouldn't stand taller than the bride, neutral makeup, so I wouldn't look too polished, and a looser silhouette for the dress so as not to overshadow the bridal aesthetic. Let me get this straight. I'd spent months working on myself, climbing out of a psychological pit they dug for me since childhood, and now I was being asked to dull my light on purpose because it might throw shade on Bonnie's moment? I blinked at my phone for a full minute. Then I typed one word, "No," and hit send. That little monosyllabic revolution triggered an emotional nuclear meltdown. Bonnie called me within the hour, crying like someone had told her the wedding was canceled and the venue had burned down. "Why are you doing this to me?" she sobbed. "Can't you just let me have this?" Next came the barrage. Mom messaged in full caps like she was trying to scream through the screen. Dad, who rarely engages unless football is on, actually called to say I was being dramatic. "It's just one day," he said, like I hadn't already given up hundreds to keep the peace. "Can't you tone it down?" Tone it down? My mental well-being? My right to exist proudly in a dress that actually fits? My refusal to show up as a dimmed version of myself just to prop up my sister's fragile sense of specialness? No, thanks. I did the opposite. I tripled down. Booked a professional makeup artist. Reserved a blowout appointment the morning of the wedding. I didn't just tailor the bridesmaid dress. I had it custom fitted to hug every contour. I wasn't dressing to be noticed. I was dressing to finally see myself as someone worth noticing. 3 days of silence followed. Then came an email. An actual email, not a text, from Bonnie to the bridal party titled, "Color Coordination Plus Expectations." The way she wrote it, you'd think she was planning a royal coronation instead of a rustic vineyard wedding. Under the section labeled Style Cohesion, she wrote, "We kindly ask that everyone refrain from wearing anything flashy, tight-fitting, or overly styled that may draw attention away from the bride. This includes bold makeup, sequins, or statement accessories." Translation? Please mute yourselves so Bonnie can scream. The group chat exploded. A few bridesmaids messaged me privately. What's up with her? Is this serious? One even wrote, "Girl, I hope you show up looking like a damn goddess." And you know what? I will. Because I'm not just showing up to a wedding. I'm showing up to the arena they built to keep me small. And this time, I'm not the sidekick. I'm not the shame. I'm not the invisible backdrop. I'm the main event. And they're just going to have to deal with it. Update. It was 2 weeks before the wedding, and you could practically feel the tension humming in the air like an overworked hairdryer. The wedding WhatsApp group chat had gone suspiciously quiet, a bad omen in a family where silence usually meant someone was preparing a monologue filled with guilt and glitter. I was still slated to fly in the following Friday, and up to that point, I hadn't heard a peep from Bonnie since her passive-aggressive email blast. Not a text, not a typo. I figured I'd use the downtime to focus on myself. I booked a spa day, got a facial, bought a pair of gold stilettos that made me feel like a Marvel character on her way to a red carpet. I wasn't dressing to be noticed. I was suiting up for battle soft armor, but armor nonetheless. That weekend, Bonnie's maid of honor duties were meant to commence, a bridal shower at our childhood home, a buffet of Pinterest recipes, custom cocktails, and enough staged candid photos to make it look like a magazine shoot. And me? I was expected to smile, pose, and help clean up afterward. The moment I walked in, it was clear Bonnie hadn't briefed anyone on my transformation. My grandmother blinked like I'd walked in with a second head. My cousin Amanda nearly choked on her mimosa. Even the photographer, yes, they hired a photographer, did a subtle double take before readjusting her lens. Bonnie greeted me last. "Wow," she said flatly. "You look, well, not great, not amazing. Just well," like she was commenting on my cholesterol levels, not my entire metamorphosis. I smiled sweetly. "You too. You look just like yourself." That stung. She knew it. The rest of the day was a thinly veiled theater of forced smiles and gritted teeth. Bonnie played hostess with a champagne flute glued to her palm, making sure to rotate between compliments for her own hair, the DIY centerpieces, and her skincare routine, all while barely looking in my direction. But the guests did. Oh, they did. More than one person pulled me aside and whispered variations of, "You look incredible. What's your secret?" And, "I almost didn't recognize you." My response? A shrug and a smile. Let the mystery haunt them. As the sun dipped and the photos started, the tension sharpened. Bonnie pulled me aside right before the group shots, clutching her bouquet like it doubled as a weapon. "Can you stand at the end?" she asked. "Why?" I asked, genuinely curious. "I just think the balance will be better that way." Oh, she meant visual balance. Translation: don't stand next to me because you might steal my thunder. I nodded and stepped to the end. Not because I agreed, but because I didn't need to be next to her to be seen. After the final click, I reached for my coat. I'd done my duty, worn my smile, and now it was time to dip. But before I could make my exit, Bonnie grabbed my wrist, her expression tight. "I really need this day to be about me," she hissed. I met her gaze, calm as a glacier. "Then maybe you should have planned it better." She stared at me, jaw slack, unsure whether I'd just insulted her or given advice. And with that, I walked out. Through the hallway of stairs, through the house that had never quite felt like mine, and into the fresh air that tasted like liberation. The next time I'd see her? Wedding day. And something told me she wasn't ready. If you ever want to see a perfectly orchestrated meltdown in high definition, just show up to your younger sister's wedding looking like the plot twist she never accounted for. Because that's exactly what I did. The morning of the ceremony felt surreal. I slipped into my tailored bridesmaid dress, a deep sapphire blue that hugged my curves with unapologetic precision, and looked in the mirror. For once, I wasn't staring at flaws or adjusting to hide something. I looked radiant, sharp, powerful, like every unkind comment from my family had been burned and repurposed into armor. At the venue, the energy was already jittery. The planner buzzed around like a caffeinated bee, and Bonnie's bridesmaids were identical expressions of forced calm. I walked in, and you could feel the mood shift like a change in barometric pressure. One of the stylists actually blinked twice and whispered, "Whoa." I joined the other bridesmaids in the dressing area. Bonnie wasn't there yet. The air was thick with hairspray and tension. And then she arrived. Bonnie waltzed in like she'd been summoned by a spotlight. Her dress was exactly what you'd expect. Poofy, princessy, borderline edible looking. But when she saw me, she stalled. Her eyes raked over me, expression unreadable, and for a second, I thought she might say something. But she didn't. She just sipped her water bottle like it was wine and turned to the mirror. Until she didn't. "We need to make a change," she suddenly said. "I want the bridal party photos redone with a new arrangement." The planner, confused, asked why. Bonnie pointed directly at me. "It's just visual balance. We don't want anything to be distracting." One of the bridesmaids coughed loudly, not out of shock, but disbelief. I spoke up. Calm, clear, direct. "I'm not moving. This is where I was placed, and I'm staying." Bonnie turned a shade of red I didn't even know existed. "It's my day, and I'm not the one making it about me," I said. Silence. Awkward. Awful. Delicious. Then came the ceremony. I walked down the aisle like it was my runway. Head up, heels sharp against the stone floor. The audience murmured. People noticed. Bonnie noticed. The ceremony went off without a hitch, sort of. Her groom looked like he was suppressing a smile every time he glanced at me. Petty? Maybe. But after years of shrinking, it felt like justice. At the reception, things escalated. People kept approaching me. Compliments flew. Old family friends beamed. Even my aunt, the one who once called me big-boned at Thanksgiving, asked for my skincare routine. Bonnie? She was seething. Halfway through the night, she cornered me outside the reception hall, away from the camera crew and cocktail clinking. "You couldn't just let me have this?" she hissed. "I did let you have this," I replied. "The dress, the ring, the party, the drama, that's all you. You stole the spotlight." "No," I said, eyes level. "You just never thought I'd be able to stand in it." She left in tears. I returned to the dance floor. And that night, for the first time in my entire life, I didn't feel like a shadow in someone else's story. I felt like the star. The day after the wedding, I woke up in my hotel room with that strange weightless feeling you get after some kind of emotional exorcism. No hangover, no regrets, just a clear mind and a fully charged sense of self. I stretched, tossed on a robe, and sipped my coffee like it was a victory toast. Because in a way, it was. Of course, the victory lap was short-lived. By the time I was halfway through my Eggs Benedict, my phone started buzzing like a wasp's nest. First, it was a bridesmaid. Then another. Then my mom. Apparently, Bonnie hadn't just cried herself to sleep. She had declared a full-blown emotional state of emergency. "She thinks you did it on purpose," one bridesmaid texted. "You made her feel like a side character at her wedding." I sat back, fork frozen midair. The irony. She felt like a side character? After years of me literally being cropped out of my family pictures so she could be centered? Please. But I didn't respond with fire. No rage texts. No biting sarcasm. Instead, I texted Bonnie directly. "I'm sorry you felt overshadowed. But I didn't steal anything. I just stopped hiding." No reply. Radio silence. I packed my suitcase, tossed in my heels and confidence, and checked out of the hotel like I was leaving behind a burned-down version of my former life. And in a way, I was. Back in my city, it was business as usual. Or so I thought. Until the wedding photos dropped. Bonnie uploaded the entire album to social media with a link that said, "So much love, so many memories." Except there were suspicious gaps, photos where I had clearly been cropped out, replaced by soft focus filters and floral overlays. She had literally edited me out of her wedding album. That was the moment I stopped giving her grace. I didn't rage post. I didn't retaliate. But I did share one single photo. Me in that dress, on that day, glowing like a supernova. I captioned it, "Sometimes the best thing you can do is simply show up for yourself." It blew up. Likes. DMs. A couple people even screenshotted it and added their own captions like, "This is what self-love looks like." Bonnie unfollowed me within the hour. That night, my mom called. Her voice was tight, brittle. "Do you think that was necessary?" "Yes," I said. "Absolutely." She sighed. "You know how your sister is." "Yes," I said again. "And I'm done pretending that's my problem to solve." We haven't spoken since. It's wild, really. You spend your whole life trying to be smaller, quieter, easier to digest. And then one day you stop. You stand tall. You speak your truth. And suddenly people think you're the problem. But here's the thing. I'm not angry. Not anymore. I'm just done. Done making myself less to make others more comfortable. Done apologizing for taking up space physically, emotionally, spiritually. Done waiting for permission to shine. The wedding didn't ruin anything for me. It revealed everything. Update. It's been 3 months since the wedding, and I can say this with certainty. I've never been more at peace. Bonnie and I haven't spoken. My mom occasionally sends vague, guilt-laced texts like, "Still hoping you two work things out," or "Family should stick together," but I don't engage. Not because I'm holding a grudge. I'm just no longer willing to carry their discomfort to keep the family machine running. I used to think I needed their validation. That if I just molded myself into the version they wanted, thinner, quieter, less bold, they'd finally accept me. But the truth is, acceptance that comes with conditions isn't acceptance at all. Since that day, things in my life have only bloomed. I got promoted. I joined a running group. I started dating someone who thinks I'm electric, not a project. I look in the mirror now and see someone who is entirely mine, not a reflection of anyone else's insecurity. A few weeks ago, I posted something simple on social media. I didn't change to impress anyone. I changed because I was tired of feeling invisible. And now that I've found myself, I refuse to disappear again. It went semi-viral. Strangers messaged me saying it hit them like a freight train. That made me realize something bigger. Maybe this story wasn't just mine. Maybe there are so many of us raised to believe our power is dangerous. That confidence is arrogance. That shrinking ourselves is noble. I'm here to say enough. You are not the villain for outgrowing the people who kept you small. You are not cruel for protecting your peace. And you're not selfish for choosing yourself, maybe for the first time. I'm not saying this journey is easy. There are days I still hear their voices in my head. But they're fading. And mine? Mine is louder than ever. So if you're reading this and you've ever been the black sheep, the silent sibling, the overlooked one, hear me now. You're allowed to rise. You're allowed to be radiant. And if your light makes others squint, let them buy sunglasses. Thank you for following this journey. And now, I want to hear from you. What would you have done in my shoes? Have you ever had to walk away from family to protect your sanity? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's make space for stories like this, the ones that don't end in forgiveness but in freedom. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is rewrite the ending yourself.